Before we get started, I just want to give a quick overview. Now, what you're seeing is my notes file. It's organizational software companies use in order to share notes, comments, files, documents, video links, and the like. You'll notice that there are tiny little plus signs underneath each section, which, if hit, will expand and become quite extensive. This organizational tree covers all of human history and, in fact, all of existence from the beginning of time and the universe. That sounds a bit much, but there's a logical, progressive reason for that, which I'll explain in a second. There are two audiences, if you will, that concern me. Those who know virtually nothing about God and the Bible. They're not hard atheists, but just the average person on the street who's never spent much, if any, time in the Bible. But because of the present condition of the world and even our own country, they've got a very uneasy feeling that things are becoming very abnormal and they've got no explanation for it. It's this upper section that concerns the first group. There's probably about a half year's worth of work. I've been working on this actually for almost 7 years now. That's a full 8 to 10 hour days for 6 months of information crammed into documents and videos that range from the top, delving into quantum mechanics that helps us to understand for the first time in history how God created approximately 13 billion years within a 24-hour period that was the fourth day of creation. These are real billions of years of information in a real 24-hour period that all occurred simultaneously. It's a real mind bender, but very possible for the average person to comprehend if laid out properly. Modern technology now helps us to do just that. We also cover biology, genetics, archaeology, geology, ancient manuscript evidence, and finally the entire family line from Adam and Eve to Joseph in Egypt through the line of Shem, and then finally the extensive extra-biblical records that trace Japheth's line down to the major houses of royalty in modern Europe, mostly Northern Europe. We're not going to be covering any of that. The other group is where you come in. Those who already believe that God, particularly the God of the Bible, does exist, and quite possibly, that current events are looking eerily similar to those parts of Scripture that discuss the return that Jesus himself promised. This section begins in the 6th century BC to the present, starting with the Babylonian Empire, then Medo-Persia, followed by Alexander the Great, the Roman Empire, followed by the period of the royal houses of Europe, and finally making a huge leap to the end of the 21st century. That's all within the statue of Nebuchadnezzar's dream, interpreted by Daniel. The filler that complements and fills in much of the detail from the time of Christ to the present is comprised within the letters to the 7 churches and the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse. And here's how they overlap. The letters have been understood traditionally to be directed to 7 actual churches that resided at the time in what is now modern Turkey. Those letters have also been understood to have significance and application to Christians in general, regardless of when they lived over the past 2,000 years. There are messages that are considered timeless, but there has become a growing awareness, beginning in the 19th century, that the letters also contain prophetic implications, each letter covering a specific period of Christendom over the millennia. Complementing that are the 4 horsemen, which are the first 4 of the 6 seals in the book of Revelation. The traditional view of both the letters to the churches and the 7 seals is that they kick into gear when all the action begins just prior to Christ's return. There are a good number of inherent problems with that point of view, which we'll discuss when we get together. While this topic can go on indefinitely because of how immense it is, I think we can swallow the elephant in small bites. So this is what I propose. If you all can clear your schedule for the next Sunday evening at 6:30 and can spend about an hour, I can give you a pretty in-depth overview and answer any initial questions. If we can agree on a mutually agreed day time for a follow-up session, each can decide whether they'd like to continue and what particular aspect of the topic to pursue. I'm willing to be as flexible as needed. Overall, I think we can cover a lot of territory if we keep it to about 1 hour at a time. And a total of about 3 sessions would cover quite a bit of territory. After that, you can decide any future interest you might have. All for now, and let me know by bouncing back in the reply. I'm such a non-Facebook user, but Nancy helps me navigate, so I'll find your messages. I'll check each day. Thanks.